Tell me why love is nothing but a heartbreak. Tell me why it's nothing but all this stuff. Tell me why I never want to hear your say.
You know, I was just gonna
I
cancel.
won't do it
I no,
that
I was just
way.
gonna cancel the show, but after that, maybe I should just go ahead and do that anyways. So guys, thank you for being here. Christ Almighty, everyone, welcome to the Newbcast podcast for the 28th of July, 2019. I don't even know what that was.
It was adorable. That's
I
what
mean,
it was.
Are we talking about the details here? Because, I mean, there are a lot of three-headed dogs that could just be the Cerberus. I mean, is that the question here? Because we already know that this is what happens every time the Unabridged Gamer is here.
Don't try to justify this. Don't try to justify this.
Look at that enthusiasm. Look at that shimmy. Look at that shimmy going on right now.
Everyone, welcome to the Newbcast podcast, a gaming podcast where we talk gaming news and other gaming-related content. Tonight's show is we got a core group. Is myself, Dizzity, and the Unabridged Gamer. So we'll go ahead and do what we usually do: kick it around and start it off with the Unabridged Gamer. Yes.
Full respect to our special guest, the Hungry Badger.
Look, the thing about the Hungry Badger is you're gonna listen. Otherwise, I'm gonna feed this this little kitten to this Hungry Badger.
Oh.
And props to you if you know that reference.
I'll you about that. I promise I'm putting it away. I'm putting it away now. It's there. It's watching, but it's not gonna come.
We need to listen, okay? Don't let the kittens get destroyed.
Right. No. So kick it off by doing what we usually do, going around talking about what we've been playing. We got some headlines and other topics to discuss, and then we'll wrap it up by pitching ourselves and selling out a little bit and wrapping it up. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and just start off with you, Elijah, Unabridged Gamer. Welcome to the show. How's it going? What have you been playing?
Not much. It's actually gotten worse since I was last on in terms of playing things. I have finished one game in the entire time. It was a good one, though. I got to finally, between everything else, play Gears of War 4, which is probably the first Gears game that doesn't make you feel angry while playing it. Like, it's genuinely a good time. The ending's kind of anticlimactic. It's got some good emotional stuff, but still, it kind of was like, you're in an epic mech boss fight against a giant crab monster. Yes, and you attack the crab's weak point for maximum damage. Those of you who remember E3 2016, that's 2006. But otherwise, it's actually really cleverly designed. The characters have some nuance. There's personality, and just it's one of the better told linear, shiny action set-piece games to come out in a while. It feels less like it's trying to ape Naughty Dog and more like it's trying to go after what Visceral Games used to do, like with Dead Space. There's even a weapon that is basically the Ripper from Dead Space that just happens to be only the alternate fire mode. So,
sure.
Yeah, it was nice with kick-ass. Plus, the characters, you know how in a lot of video games you'll figure things out way before the protagonist does? Like, it's like, yes, obviously this is the bad guy in your party and he's going to betray you and stuff like that. Yeah, that doesn't happen in Gears 4. They figure things out the same time you do. They're like, hey, maybe X is X. Well, shit, son. You're actually using your noggin for more than 10 seconds. You're not just holding onto your trigger finger. Plus, I do love that the active reload actually gets narrower every time you do it now. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And I have to give credit to the PC port because my laptop has like next to no GPU, but otherwise, as long as you downgrade it visually, the game runs like a charm. It's beautiful.
Okay.
But that's really about it for me in terms of lots of gaming. I've mostly just been working. There's a lot of stuff that I want to get to. There's a whole bunch of things that are sitting in front of me right now where it's like, yeah, we'll get to that. I'm feeling like, what's his name in the first Iron Man movie? Next time, baby. Next time. But for right now, that's it for me.
All right.
Wow.
I have to give
wow.
some...
What? Oh. I was about to say, wow, was that abridged or?
I have a PSA to give. Where is it? So
Brace yourselves, everyone.
some folks remember American McGee, who made Alice and Alice Madness Returns. Okay, here's the thing: we were discussing how he made this game on, I think it was the last podcast, Scrapland, and it released in 2004, and it got swept under the rug by everything else. Yeah, I found out another reason no one talks about the PC port. It has Star Force DRM, which, if you don't know what that means, it will actually destroy a PC that is newer than Windows Vista. Like,
Oof.
I'm serious. It actually destroyed RaceFix's computer when he tried to do King Kong on PC. And the thing is, I got lucky. I found out about this having Star Force because it didn't install properly. It's a hilarious irony, but because it didn't install properly, it was like, why is it complaining about this? And it's like 10 seconds of Googling, oh my gosh, this is awful. This is terrifying. Why would anyone agree with this? And the thing is, Star Force is still existing as a company. They still do work. But the thing is, they haven't fixed any of their stuff. They haven't patched it. They know that everyone hates them. And their response whenever you actually ask them to, maybe patch it is contact the game's publisher. Because everybody knows Deep Silver's really in a hurry to remove the DRM from Scrapland, a game they haven't even digitally re-released in over a decade.
Well,
so, yeah. When you're getting an old PC game from the early 2000s, make sure it doesn't have Star Force, or it could almost kill your computer.
I'm suspecting that one of the reasons that you're probably seeing that they're not updating it or fixing it is they have no incentive to. What reason do they have to actually fix it?
There is thankfully going to be, I am still going to be able to cover the game because apparently the Xbox copy plays via backwards compatible on Xbox 360. So if you're like me and you're curious to play it, get an Xbox copy. Do not try the PC version unless you have a virtual machine set up that's got graphics capability and Windows XP installed on it. There's no safe way of using the thing. So, yeah, that's a warning for everybody.
Okay. Noted. It's a thing. It's a noted. Bam. And that's everything. That was an abridged version of what the unabridged gamer's been playing. Wow.
I'm serious. It's been driving me crazy. I got the tiny screen of Sinking City. Someday I'll get to play the frickin' thing.
Driving? Never mind. Dizzy, well, no, he said it was driving him crazy. I'm like, driving? Like, currently? That's long. Dizzy, welcome to the show. How's it going? What have you been playing lately?
I am doing well. Thanks for asking. You know that Dragon Quest thing, right? The Builders 2.
Yeah, yes.
Dragon Quest meets Minecraft. Oh my gosh. I am having way too much fun with it. That's been most of my time offline. Last weekend, I was out in the real world, like not being online constantly for a full weekend, like an actual vacation. It was crazy.
Wow.
And had a great time. Everybody who was in our group who hung out for the weekend brought their Switch with them if they had a Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like most of the group.
Nice.
So we got a chance to play a whole bunch of different things. Dragon Quest was definitely one of them. A lot of people still playing Breath of the Wild who just like picked it up at the beginning, didn't really do that much with it. And it's nice because you can always kind of pick it up whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
The surprise game that I found out about, and I don't know how it slipped past my radar because it's an absolutely magnificent little puzzle game. It's called Baba Is You.
Okay.
Beautiful little puzzle, and it's kind of in that era of we're going to give you really trippy puzzle mechanics to get you thinking about things in different ways. What they do is they create a bunch of operators. So the name of the game itself, Baba Is You. Baba is a different character that you have in the game. And then is your operator, and you is the result.
Okay.
And so say, for example, when Baba is you get to run around and use your controls to move around Baba, this one character.
Okay.
the cool part is all of those operators, all of those pieces, you move in this 2D puzzle platform. So if you don't want to be Baba and you want to be a rock instead, you find the little piece that says rock, move it over, and just swap the spots. And now all of a sudden, rock is you, and you get to run around and be a rock. Or maybe you want to be a wall, and you can move the entire level.
Okay.
So a lot of really cool mechanics on there, a lot of different ways to think about puzzle games that I have not really encountered. And it's definitely on my to-do list after Dragon Quest finally burns out its long playtime for me. But definitely huge shout outs to the game. It is available on Switch, and I imagine like everything else at this point.
Well, given everything that's been releasing on the Switch, that does not surprise me in the least. So, good. I'm glad you're enjoying that. Anything else that you... I suppose you said you had that staycation, vacation thing, so... Have you had a chance for a lot of gaming in general, or...?
Not a ton, to be honest with you. It's a shame, because last time we talked about me getting back into Final Fantasy XIV,
Yes.
and I barely touched it in the last couple of weeks. And I think the biggest part of it is just having Dragon Quest Builders recently come out. I definitely am I'm tuning in on it. I'm really enjoying it. And I'm also in a spot in Final Fantasy XIV where it's a lot of grind.
Oh,
So it's not nearly as appealing right now.
Is it a Realm Reborn that you're in, though? Are you in, which part?
I'm still in a Realm Reborn, yeah.
Oh.
I still need to do, the whatchamacallit, the dungeon. There's like a deep dungeon, like a randomized dungeon we were talking about during the last podcast.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. And we went
something
on
or
to that
other of the
tangent.
dead. Yep.
Quoted.
And it's so repetitive that it doesn't attract me. What I need to do is just grind it out and be like, I'm gonna do an hour of this, and then I'm gonna DQB the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely need to get back into that. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah, a little bit of dealing with real life stuff. So not a lot of. I would love to have more gaming in my list as well. Nothing that I can commiserate with anyone about, possibly.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's where it's at.
Okay.
What have you been up to, Mish?
Well, I got to play a round of replace your computer hardware, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. There's a simulator game for that, isn't there?
Yeah, I was basically playing the real life version of PC Building Simulator.
I love it when games have home editions. This is great.
Right? No, so yesterday at one point, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. I had like 2 videos running and a couple programs that had closed down, and I was updating Warframe, and I watched my CPU temperature spike to 70 degrees Celsius. I'm like, no, not for 2 videos in the game download. Nope. So I went out and got a new heatsink. Now, I kept saying before that my old heatsink was the size of a baby's head. I'm not kidding. This was the heatsink that was in there.
That's crazy.
This is what was in there.
No wonder why it didn't cool anything. I mean, it's a small engine, really.
Yeah,
Engines don't cool things.
I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Decepticon, so that might have been why it was an enemy on the inside.
Maybe I thought maybe it's a 2-cycle engine and it could, get a little motorcycle going. But yeah, so that's the old heatsink. The new heatsink and cooling system in my PC is now liquid cooling. So right now I'm running much cooler than I ever have. Like normally for the podcast, I'd be about 15 degrees warmer than where I am currently. So we're doing good.
That is pretty cool, I have to admit.
Time for
I didn't even mean that pun. Okay, do not credit that pun, please.
God,
that was cold as ice, man.
But I have looked at liquid cooling for the longest time and been like, I am terrified of it. I'm gonna ruin something and mess up my system. Like, how easy was it to install?
Incredibly easy. So what I ended up having to do is I ended up taking it's a dual fan system. So it's 2 fans. It's 2 120 millimeter fans that are mounted to a radiator. So I unmounted the fans from my case. I mounted the radiator to the case, and then the fans to the radiator, and then I just put the cooling unit on top of this PC. The plug that you use for your CPU fan is the same plug. You use a SATA power cable, and then there's a USB interface if there's one on your motherboard available, so you can actually control the RGB, because of course RGB everything right now.
That is super important.
Yep. And that was it. It started right up. My computer was like, "We have detected a new CPU. Would you like to blah blah blah?" I'm like, "It's the same one." So just hit enter a few times, and it was good to go. Yeah. And everything's running fine.
What's the color of the liquid? We all have to know.
I don't know. It's in the cooling unit itself. So.
Oh, it's not showing off or anything. It is RGB flashy, but not.
Yeah, the cooling liquid itself is fine. It's all enclosed, so there's no chance for it to. The likelihood of it leaking is reduced because of the fact that I don't have to do the liquid itself. It's already installed and sealed, right? I just have to mount the radiator, mount the cooling unit, and that's it.
It sounds so easy that really no one needed to tell you the odds. You must have been able to install it hand solo.
Get him out of here. No, so I've done that, which means, one of the things I was trying to do a little bit more of in exploring back into again is Warframe.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm trying. The movement of the movement of the game, like I don't know if I care for the way the flow of the game. Like some of the concepts, it seems all right. Apparently everyone's all about Roombas right now in Warframe, which is a thing. But
what?
Yeah, Roombas.
Are people pretending to be Roombas,
no.
or are there actual Roombas?
There are actual Roombas that you can get.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So that's a thing. And I've seen that in other stuff. I do not have any Roombas yet myself. I still have a lot of content to do. But that's one of the things I've been touching with a bit. Of course, I haven't played a lot to be able to be like, yeah, this has happened. Like, it's just enough to be like, right, the flow and the way this.
I'm just trying to picture a world where someone has actually completed a vast majority of Warframe's content, because at that point, it's, that's like I saying, I've been to most of EVE Online.
Well, and the thing is like, in my Discord, in the sub-only chat, there's discussion going on about other games that the subs would like to watch. And a couple people had mentioned Warframe. So I'm like, all right, well, let me try to get back into the flow of it a little bit and see if I still feel the same way about it. And currently I do. But if that's what people want to watch, we'll probably try to squeeze it in there, because I love Elite Dangerous, and I did a lot of Elite Dangerous this year, but reconnection successful.
Hallelujah.
You all missed a very important moment where Elijah,
really,
like a football, like football for everybody but the U.S. football match.
Oh,
we did finally score, which is great.
I just watched it drop again. I'm just like, really? We just got back, and no. Okay, we're good. We're fine.
Are we, though?
I think so.
This actually brings up a relevant point, because this stream always has problems as soon as we think it's done, and they brought it up in Gears 4, and they're like, stop saying the room is clear. Every time we say the room is clear, something comes in.
Well, no. It's like the one time per stream it dropped for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is. I may have to start connecting to other servers. I think.
I do have a somewhat related note.
Okay.
So thinking about all of the hardware, I did actually put new hardware in my computer.
Okay.
I decided to get a wireless adapter, and this was a risky decision.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that I can't get my modem out close enough to my computer to have a good wired connection. Unless I want to have like a 50-meter cable straight from like 2 rooms away over into this room.
You run into vents.
Yeah, nope. Not around here. So I figured my next best bet would be have a direct.
You run it through vents.
Not here.
Also,
I wish I could.
To answer your question, the honey badger is not taking any questions right now. He is actually enjoying a very soothing bath, and he is saying snarky comments about us all. Unfortunately, his microphone fell into the toilet, so it's a bit gurgled at the moment.
But yeah, I could theoretically still plug it in every once in a while, but it's just super, super inconvenient. I also had a signal repeater, which I tried to use and then make a wired connection from. As it turns out, I'm not sure if it's just that the router has an issue or because it's a signal repeater, it's going to have issues, but I could never get it past 2 megabits.
Interesting.
And I definitely have a better connection than that. So played around with a couple of other options. They've got the option now where you can like wire through your electricity system, which is really neat. Like the tech is cool, but it just wasn't reliable. So I just finally decided I was going to give in, throw wireless into my computer, and deal with the ramifications.
Gotcha. Anyway, as far as like other games, let's see. We were talking Warframe. We talked Roombas. I was talking about the flow of the game. How I'm not sure. Subs in the Discord have a sub-only chat, and they're telling me Warframe. I don't know. Because Elite, as much as you enjoy Elite, you can't be stuck to a single game on this platform. That's a bad idea. So yeah, with that said, Elite. Made it back with Elite. I was playing that a little bit. We got back from a Nebula exploration mission that we took on. Where we made 66 million credits worth of money, but the big thing was over 1,000 new celestial bodies had been discovered and have our name on it now.
That's a lot of name.
Yep. Feel pretty damn good about that one. So I've done that, and then been doing a lot of that RP again. Gosh, that thing is addictive.
So yeah, what is going on in the life of Officer Gene?
Boy problems?
Oh, yes, I was hearing about this. There's always a first when someone tries to romance your character in a roleplay.
Yeah, no.
Oh, this is adorable.
Which is funny because like there was one point where I was in I happened to see the player of this character, the other character, in our non-roleplay like voice chat in Discord, and I popped in quick. I'm like, you son of a bitch. You are making this incredibly difficult. And he's like, well, why? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, because I'm too fucking gay to be able to handle this. Would you not do this, please? Yeah. So that happened. That was a thing.
Oh, dear. I imagine it is I mean, I'm glad that you encountered and dealt with it appropriately. Like, just like in real life, that's what you have to do in situations like that.
Well, that's what a lot of these, like, there's certain things that happen that you just kind of have to do what you would actually do because you can't do over the top stuff for roleplay all the time. Sometimes it's just like, well, this is just what would actually happen, so this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
She's got that. She's got another. She's got her own date with someone else on Tuesday that she's confused about, and then she's been doing her job. She's been trying to keep herself distracted by doing her job. She gets to the city, she clocks in and works, and by doing that she can avoid all the other problems because she's sorry, can't talk, I'm working.
It sounds like she's using work as a coping mechanism, and that might lead to some future problems down the road. I'm very curious to see how they play out.
Maybe.
I hope that said date goes well, and the soon-to-be significant other is like a drug lord, and you just end up having to fence a whole bunch of stuff.
The date itself isn't with the same person though. It's someone else that was like, "Hey, want to go do the thing?" Sure. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, it's a date. It's like, what? It's like what? So yeah, she is confused about that. We'll see. That will actually be live on the stream on Tuesday because both characters, both players for those characters are actually streaming that on Tuesday, as I understand it. So, but yeah, it's not.
So there's gonna be an audience for this date.
Yeah, a little bit. But again, it's not the boy problem. So this one was this is a different character, and she's a quite fascinating person. Like, she's actually one of Jean's friends otherwise. So we're doing that. Dude, what other stuff happened in roleplay? I know that she's been respected. There's a lot of citizens that actually seem to enjoy her. Enjoy the whole fact that she just like she's gotten off with a few people off with warning. She's like, look, I don't want to do paperwork. Don't make me do paperwork. Don't do this stupid thing again. Which a few of the players that are like a couple of characters like, okay. So yeah, some people are enjoying Jean as far as the character is concerned, and like the fact that she's just friendly and just like, hey, here's the thing, don't make me do this because I don't want to. Just stay out of trouble and whatnot.
Definitely the good cop.
Yeah, she kind of is. She kind of is. Other than that, like, that's really all my gaming. I've had some D&D, but I mean that's always something that you count on like once a month at least from me, is doing D&D, and me wanting to nuke that with my sorceress, but that's a whole other thing. That's really it for gaming though, and then what we've been playing, I guess. Should we just go ahead and just jump into the various headlines that we've got for this time round?
Yeah, we've got a decent amount of news this go, actually.
Yeah. Can we just hit on one of the I know that they're in a particular order on our sheet, but I just want to hit the first one right off the gut.
Yeah.
As because it's quick but it's worth noting, is we would like to pass our condolences to the family of Geoff Robinson, or otherwise known as iNcontrol, who passed away at the age of 33 due to a blood clot in his lungs. This was very unexpected. It was not, no one really saw it coming. It just all of a sudden popped up on his someone logged into his Twitter and announced it from his family. And yeah, it's just a reminder that life is too short to make sure to hug and tell your loved ones that you do love them, because you never know. It's unfortunate. iNcontrol, of course, is known for his StarCraft commentary. Started with Brood Wars, did a lot of stuff with StarCraft 2. He was a Twitch streamer, did a lot of various things on Twitch as well.
Headliner for Evil Geniuses.
Yep.
Really started building esports as an industry. He was one of the main people up there.
Yep. He was infamously in the Command and Conquer commercial last year at E3, which I think people gave him a hard time about, but I mean, that just shows what level he was at, where he was in those type of trailers and whatnot too. There's definitely a brand there, but Geoff was very well liked, and even if you didn't follow him as directly, like he was always an interesting voice to listen to and have a discussion about games going. So that's one of the passings. And then Elijah, you'd mentioned that there was one other one that had occurred.
Yes, there was. Hold on, let me pull it up again. We unfortunately also lost one of the fighting game scene's community majors. Name was Bryand Crucial B McIntosh, who sadly passed away from a seizure, as I understand it. He was in the middle of a convention when this happened. He's been one of the major players in the North American scene, and from what everyone is saying, has been an equally positive force for the North American fighting game scene, which I can believe. I know some fighting game scene, so this really sucks for them as well. And our condolences to his family. Well, it's. I hate when they drop in droves.
It's unfortunate, and the fact that this is age 33 and 34, both were cases that there was no sign. I think with some of these names in the last year and a half, though, that we've seen past is if it's sudden, or if there's something that's in your family line, make sure to have it checked on. To famously quote another person is, if your body starts doing something that it doesn't normally do, go get it checked. If it's nothing, celebrate that it's nothing, because there's nothing worse than being in the dark about it. But yeah, I feel like that was the most appropriate way to start that off, is just to address that, because it was kind of the elephant in the room for topics, but it was worth mentioning because in their respective parts of the gaming community as a whole, they were known and liked. So from that, do we want to go into what is this Steam trading economy thing that you brought up? Because that's right up on the list.
This is really brilliant, actually, and I think it brings up a lot of the concerns that people have with digital currency and stuff like like Bitcoin and all of that. And in fairness, most of those concerns have nothing to do with this situation, but I promise you, it's going to cause some mischief on there. So if and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that this works out, Team Fortress 2, which has been around for entirely a ridiculously long period of time, has always been known for their hats, custom equipment that you can wear in game. Yep. And some of them are ridiculously difficult to get. There was a bug that caused certain loot boxes that randomly drop these to drop these super rare items an extremely large amount of time. A lot larger than
guaranteed. It's 100% guaranteed.
Okay.
So, like, just that you're going to get something. You might get redundant, but you're still going to get something, and it has sent everything into chaos. I'm kind of stunned there's that much of like a market still for Team Fortress 2, but
well, there's still a pretty decent sized community that plays Team Fortress 2, so that doesn't surprise me too much.
And it's a collectibles market. That's the biggest thing.
Right. So with what's going on, like what's caused the mayhem, it sounds like it's kind of been a glitch. Is that how we understand it? What's going on with that?
I believe it, yeah. It seems to have been completely a glitch. They just were updated. Probably someone was doing data entry and triggered something wrong. And the thing is, though, they're responding on Valve time. So at this point, the market is going to be completely flooded. It's essentially like, if gold bars were just getting thrown out at everyone on the street. So as a result, the items, everybody has them, but now they're also going to depreciate in value. So the entire scheme just got shifted, and it's a question of if Valve reverts it and pisses a lot of people off, or if they let it stand and piss a lot of other people off.
Well, and here's the bigger issue with that, right? Because you can get all of these items with real money. You can trade them with other people for real money. So you revert those trades, and if you revert those trades, how are you taking care of all of the transactions, making sure that everybody gets paid back what they're supposed to? And more importantly, like, everybody was in an agreement to do precisely this, and Valve not, pressing the button on it soon enough, that's not the fault of the people who made these cash transactions. So it's going to turn into a financial issue, much more than it would be if this were just cosmetic items in a game that didn't have any reference otherwise. Or even with stuff that you bought with the boxes but couldn't actually trade for real money.
Oh, yeah.
So we've kind of seen it a little bit with some of the trading cards and whatnot that ended up in the Steam shops anyway. A lot of people make a lot of money from some of those items and some of the rarities, some of those cards. So if I feel like no matter what they end up doing, then at this point, someone is going to get hammered by this, because either there's going to be a revert on what dropped, and a lot of people are going to lose out on what was dropped already, or the value of these items are going to just completely tank, or I mean, what other possible scenarios are there? I mean, regardless, this doesn't sound good for this trading card like economy that exists in Steam and its marketplace.
There is a precedent. There is a precedent actually with this with Team Fortress 2. Does anyone know about the vintage classification in Team Fortress 2?
I'm not off the top now.
Okay,
No.
so essentially, back when Team Fortress 2 was first introducing the marketplace and everything, before that, getting cosmetics was extremely difficult. Like, you couldn't actually buy them, and you had to craft to get them.
Okay.
It's a weird case of where the players actually were requesting the ability to buy them because they would spend hours and hours and not actually be able to get the hats that they wanted. So, as a result, anything that you have in your Team Fortress 2 inventory from before the marketplace happened, when you had to earn it, now has a vintage marking on it. Like, I'm sure some of the weapons that I have from back when I was playing in like 09 still are listed as vintage. So there is an opportunity here where they could actually keep everything at the same rarity that it was, and just market that everything that has been transacted in the past while under a unique classification, like, as if they were, the big glitch or whatever sort of status effect, whereas everything else would then revert back to the same in the marketplace. That would be their one way to really argue around it, is by making as I mean, it's already artificial rarity. There's nothing to stop them from just going, and everything going forward is this rarity, and everything that happened in this thing, yeah, it's worth nothing.
But
This
I was gonna say, but the thing is that supply and demand still applies to this, though. If there's a lower demand for these items because they've been flooded out by this glitch, then what demand is there for these items?
the status effect matters. I know if for most of us it doesn't, but like, there are CSGO skins that people will go to extreme lengths to acquire that realistically aren't all that different from ones that are on the average tier, but because they're listed as rarer, people go for them. The vintage Team Fortress 2 items, as I recall, they actually were more valuable because they were from before the marketplace update.
Okay.
It's a different mindset than you or I would have. We'd just be happy to have the cosmetic because, okay, I have the fancy hat. But for these people who are doing it as a marketplace, who care about the value way more than what it actually is, yeah, they're going to be focused on ensuring that they can actually still get value and revenue. So it'll be affected nonetheless, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is how Valve bounces back from it, or something like that, if they're being sensible and wearing their sensible hats today.
I see. Okay.
They do have very many not sensible hats, though, in fairness.
Yeah.
They have a noble amassment of hats.
And I feel like that's the case with a lot of their marketplace, with their trading cards and whatnot. It's nonsensical in the first place, but the fact that I don't know. It sounds like this is just a whirlwind of a mess that's just going to continue to be a whirlwind of a mess for a while, and I
everybody's going to be a little upset. Hopefully there isn't also a group that is majorly upset. Like people who have sunk $300, $400 and get nothing out of it.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, there will be a method to make that happen. There will be a method to make the people who have, $1,600 of new stuff that they've been trying to resell and haven't been able to upset as well. Like, there are a lot of different ways that this can go poorly. So, sorry, but you made your blunder. And now you know why so few places have a cash trading option like you do.
It also warrants mentioning that while the value went away from themselves, because the items were still in demand, loot crate prices actually skyrocketed. It was an inverse situation where the items became cheaper, but the loot crates that contained them became more valuable. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but it's actually one of the few sensible things that I've seen happen out of all this, is just a natural response that, okay, yeah, nobody really cares about trying to buy these items individually. Everybody's selling them, but the loot crate, that might still offer something more enticing, which, just loot crates. It's what they do. So that might be also how some people who have been investing in this turn this around. So, short of actually asking someone who knows Valve economics, which I can't believe is actually a thing, other short of
Wait.
that, that's about what we consider a
Valve economics.
Valve economics.
That's a thing.
I'm calling it that. That's what it is. It is a thing. I know people who have bought brand new games just because of Steam cards for games that they have no intentions of ever actually playing. So yeah, there is a Valve economics.
Why would you do that? I don't. I do not understand that.
To make money. Come on.
Deal
with these after issues, and maybe there's some regrets there, but at the end of the day, it's another revenue generator. It's great for them.
Oh yeah, Valve's not regretting anything other than the simple fact of the matter that, man, I wish we had thought of surprising people with this. That could have been a really good way to stir up the economy. Anyway,
I'm just dumbfounded on that. I never understood it in the first place. Like, I have made a total of like 75 cents off my trading cards. I'm like, yeah, that's a duplicate. That's a duplicate. I'm just trading out, and I have a whole mass of cards that I have because I just don't care to do anything with them.
And the majority of people won't. That's part of why it works the way it works, I think.
Oh Perhaps. Yeah, disparity works amazingly. I remember one time I found a card that was in my thing from an indie game I played, and it was worth like $3, and I'm just sitting there like, but why? That's almost the price of the game I bought.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
It's worth the inconvenience of not playing it for that person who doesn't like that style.
Yikes.
Hey, can you play this game for me? I'll give you $3.
I
think
my head hurts.
I
think my head hurts from that. That just why?
I think we just found distilled essence of video game reviews.
Yeah, right? God, why though?
Oh goodness.
Is there anything else that we need to note or cover on this particular one, or is it just a case of this is going to be in limbo and in a mess for a while?
There's more people playing Team Fortress 2 right now, so if you'd like to do that, and unlike me, your copy doesn't break whenever you try to use your mouse with it, then you can play that and have fun with that.
I don't know if that really counts, though, so... But, I mean... well, you know what? Hold on, no. How much you want to bet there's probably more people playing Team Fortress 2 right now because of the fact that the glitch exists? Did they patch it already? They're trying to take advantage of the. They're trying to take advantage of the higher drop rate on some of these rare items.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you're getting more people into your game as a result of it, hopefully this injects some new interest into TF2 that hasn't been there before. I mean, any game, especially at this age, benefits from that. I will say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. I guess before we completely demolish this dead horse, moving on. Speaking of things not working properly, what about those Joycons? Oh boy, Nintendo. We've talked so much about how great your stuff has been working, and then this happens.
So Joycons have had a weird little history, right? So like, you get people who do speed runs who got their Switch day one, and they're like, "Hey, I want to be on top of everything that's happening." And the original generation Joycons had a couple of different issues with them, and those people who are heavy duty into their gaming immediately went out to grab the ones for ARMS, which had one of the main issues removed. Now, if I know correctly, this issue is a totally different one, right?
Correct. So the problem with this one is that right now with the Joy-Cons, there's an issue where there's some drifting that occurs. So even though when you release your joystick on, or the thumbstick on a Joy-Con, when it bounces back to the center, that's supposed to be 0 on the XY axis, right? That's how it's supposed to work. It's not at 0 for whatever reason, and it causes a drift to occur in whatever game you're playing. So then, yes.
I want to explain. I do want to emphasize here that this isn't an issue unique to like the Switch. It happens in most consoles. In fact, I can name for a fact that PlayStation 3 controllers sometimes have this issue, especially when they've had a lot of use. It varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, but just basically, it can be anything from the rubber band or sensor that they've got going on to the plastic itself just wearing and tearing. So it's not unique just to Nintendo for this, and it is something that I don't know, whole the industry needs to get better at. But the unique thing with the Joy-Cons is there's even reports of it being broken pretty much out of the box.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Based on a couple of these reports, it seems to be a lot less common versus the wear and tear of it. And it seems like for people that use their Switch primarily over other stuff, but it's,
Continue.
Sometimes he just gets excited, you know.
I don't even.
But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, definitely not the first time that I've heard of or even experienced access issues.
I mean, I've heard of access issues before. I've seen that in what's it, a Xbox controller? So I mean, we could talk about that problem, but has it gotten to the point where it caused a lawsuit though? Because that's where this headline stands out, right? What it is a suit was filed by Ryan Diaz in the U.S. District Court in Seattle, Washington, alleges that Joy-Cons overwhelmingly experience a drift issue. Given enough time, Diaz argues that the problem becomes unfixable and games will perceive analog sticks moving without such input. Diaz activated Nintendo's warranty for Joy-Cons after first experiencing the problems and sent his ins only to have it crop up again a few months later. After one fix, Nintendo requires owners to pay for the repairs, so Diaz bought a new set. And that is reported on by Game Informer. So that excerpt is from Game Informer. That's what they're reporting. But that doesn't change the fact that that's where it's gotten to. It's gotten to a point where there is a lawsuit now because of this particular issue. I don't. Maybe it's just me. I don't recall like. Sure, drift occurs in some controllers in the like what Elijah was saying about like the bands giving or whatever. But to the point where there's a lawsuit though. I don't recall. Like if that was going to happen ever, why did that never happen to the joystick that was in the Nintendo 64 controller? Because that thing was terrible.
I think that we were able to give it a lot of forgiveness, and I also think that I blamed myself on the N64 controller because I pushed that thing like no one's business.
Did you now?
What? Oh.
So, but it doesn't change the fact that someone somewhere could have easily done it because, I mean, the fact that drift is something that we've seen previously in other controllers, it just happens, or just like it doesn't work. You got the floppy, your joystick on the 64 controller, right? Why this one? Why is it about the Joy-Con controller that's makes it a case where it actually went to court? It's going to court.
Yeah. Well, and I mean the other big question is how likely to do something. There, like in the article that that I read, there's a statement flat out from an attorney that says, I don't know how much this actually has for legs as to like what Nintendo's doing. Is this enough? Is it too much? Or like, is there more that they should be doing for their controllers? I think the design of the Joy-Con doesn't help. Like, if you don't have a specific like piece of equipment to hold the Switch when you're not playing on it, it is really easy to get one of those Joy-Cons locked in a position and do damage to the device that way. So
are you no I don't think Elijah is a Switch owner. I know you are and I am. I don't know about you, but most of the time if I'm not using my Switch, it's either one, docked, or two, it's resting with its back down. Joy-Cons are up, so it's not putting pressure on any buttons on the control pad.
Mm-hmm.
I have not owned one. I have, however, played a few at various stores that I will not name because we're not being sponsored by any of them. But what I will say is this. It does not surprise me in the slightest that those little things are breaking. My gosh, they feel like you're holding a candy bar at best. There's just... I know the HD rumble is a factor and everything, but I'm really curious to see if the Switch Lite fixes the big question mark of, okay, will this actually have integrity and stability, and will it not break my hands? Because as I said before, like, the general concept I get. As a guy with the Wii U, I get the general concept because it's a very similar control layout, but it just... And the other thing is the thinness of them, I think, isn't doing any favors either. I know it's for portability's sake, but I genuinely believe that some bulk helps. Because, like, the Xbox One controller I have has fallen more than pretty much any other controller I have. And that thing weighs like a brick. But the thing is also, it has survived beautifully. Like, it doesn't scuff, it doesn't scratch, and it holds up. Whereas a Switch is like this light as this little thing, and I just see them breaking. The second I look at that, just hearing that there's drift isn't even that shocking because there's not much space for really dedicated components. There's a lot of things about them that just immediately made me go, but why? And it's not even like Nintendo hasn't done sleeker controllers before, because like the Wii, with the Wiimote, this is a good balance point. There's some chunkiness to it. There's some stability, because they knew this was going to get thrown around a bunch. And the thing is, this would survive when a TV wouldn't. I don't have that faith in the Switch Joy-Con.
I don't know. I'm just really surprised. I guess, again, I'm gotten to the point where I'm just... to circle back on the part that's absolutely just stands out to me, it blows my mind. It's the fact that this is the one that went to court, not the 64 one. And the Sue Happy culture started in the 90s, right? That's not a new concept. So again, if your joystick was doing this,
I don't want to go into a huge tangent, but the Sue Happy thing actually isn't quite clearly as it was demonstrated. It's based off of a thing that happened with McDonald's that was actually misportrayed and miscalculated by a bunch of lawyers to make it look like it was a different thing. Adam Ruins Everything has a video on it. It's worth looking up. I won't give you an abridged version of it, just like, it's more complicated than we make it think, but there are idiots who will sue over nothing, because there was also I remember there was an idiot who was suing over Killzone Shadowfall not being 1080p resolution at 60 FPS for PS4 at launch, and it's like, dude, it's a launch title for a brand new console. Relax.
Yes, I understand that there are people that will do that, but the Sue Happy culture that I'm referring to started in the 90s.
Yeah. I do appreciate, as an aside here, Elijah, that you need to be on an episode of Actually. I would definitely appreciate to see there.
I'm not sure if I should be complimented or insulted because I have never seen this.
That's okay, and I believe the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. It's a multiple choice answer, and every answer is yes.
Oh my goodness.
I see that this quiz was made by Mabel Pines. All right. Anyway.
But yeah, I think you make a good point, especially about the N64 controller.
Right.
I mean, those broke off how many times?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Like, that was such a worse controller. Why is this the one that's... I mean, if it's an issue, it's an issue. And if it's a known issue, Nintendo shouldn't be charging their customers to replace it because it's a known issue. Like, if you want to make that argument, look, I completely agree with that particular argument. But if it's about the fact that a joystick does this, there were much worse controllers out there that existed while this idea that you can sue over the dumbest things could ever that lawsuit could exist. So why this one? That's my question. I don't think there's an actual answer to it. It's just my question. Why this one?
Because you can. Because you can.
Right? Yeah, pretty much.
Plus, to be fair, it is currently amongst casual players. Switch is right there behind the PS4. Think about it that way. It's a lot more around all sorts of people who wouldn't otherwise expect it and who would get angrier about it, because that's the irony. We all are used to technical glitches and problems. We've had to, stick a hairpin into our Xbox One to get it to eject a disc at 3 a.m. But
I didn't do that.
Okay, well, some of us did. But you get what I mean. And that is just, we're used to putting up with that. Whereas someone who's just a more casual player, for them, it's just going to be like, I paid $250 for this thing and it's not working. Why is this product that I paid for not working? And especially in America, they don't like that.
Yeah. Well, and when it's a legitimate issue, I think we get very, very concerned about it, because we see so many of those scenarios where it really is user error. Like, I will fully admit that most of the problems that I have with electronic equipment, I create myself. Like, I've come to accept and recognize that. So when something isn't my fault, I'm like, yo, all of these times that I've been complaining and saying that it wasn't me, this one time is right. We better handle this. You know? Like,
yeah, no, that makes perfect. Yeah. I think that of all the things that I guess we'll keep an eye on it. I think this is one where once there's actually a determination, I would love to report back on it and be like, by the way, we talked about this in a July episode, and this is what we discussed then. Here's the outcome. I think I would very much like to do that with this particular one, because it's sticky. Sticky
controller issues.
Yeah. that was intended.
That was beautiful.
All right. I think what I want to do is, because it's just the three of us. Look, here's the deal, guys. We're trying to cover news. It was a quiet couple weeks. It was a very, very quiet couple weeks. There's one thing that's not on the topic list that I want to discuss with these guys quick, but I will do that after the break, because I want to go ahead and get on a break, because it's going to be a shorter episode this week. So this is our chance to get up, move around, stretch, go to the bathroom, whatever it is that you have to do. But do not go too far. We will be back in a short bit with more of the Newbcast podcast.
Play another level of the Lost Vikings.
No.
Honestly, I thought we were over this. I honestly thought that we were over this.
No.
Are we being serenaded?
Attention to the unabridged gamer. Attention to the unabridged gamer. Please do not use the Legos in the podcast. I repeat, please do not use the Legos in the podcast. Thank you.
Ooh,
Guys,
somebody got in trouble.
Everyone, welcome back to the Newbcast podcast. Yeah, I don't even know what that was. So, things. One of the things I want to discuss that wasn't on our list but is a thing to discuss is regarding AC Odessey. For those that do not know, that there is a case of some levels that were customly made that could that moved XP along faster. And
essentially, they made a very easy to use level career that's like Twine, and a bunch of people figured out that you could just make a scenario where you could just grind for experience points.
Yep.
There's even ways to ironically game the NPCs into doing it for you, because if you made them be opposing, that they would just kill each other. You could just basically just do it over and over and over and over and over.
So
that sounds good. So watch a war.
Yeah,
gain experience. This
exactly.
is real life, actually.
What led to the point where there was ban issues involved with that, which beckons the question: if this is in a single player situation where other players are not affected by what you're doing, why would they have any right to ban you for it?
Now, see, there's one part where I understand this, and it's actually not to do with the microtransactions or anything else like this. This is purely from a developer side of things.
Oh, please.
Apparently, it filled a crap ton of the real estate for where actual, like, people putting in time and effort, writing actual stories with branching dialogue, all these things happening. Because you could make a multi-part quest line. It is that powerful a tool. Yet you don't need to know any game development experience. So there's some people putting out some really good stuff that's really great, and it's drowning in a sea of experience point pools, which was a similar issue that actually came up with Infamous 2, because Infamous 2 also had user created missions. And seriously, I remember it was a problem at the time where it was like, I would love finding these story missions, but finding them was a nightmare because of so many people just sticking a combat arena together in 10 seconds and then calling it a day. So
Sure.
I get that, though the easier solution would be to just have a filter, but you'd still would need players to mark it as being focused on just combat, which not all of them are going to do because clearly some of these players are just lazy.
Well, lazy, or the fact that the way the AC Odyssey was designed, in which you almost needed the boosters and it actually able to move along in the story at a timely rate, is a true issue, because that was an issue in Odyssey.
That was an issue if you mainlined it. The point repeatedly also argued by other people was that you were supposed to do a lot of the side quests, and the thing is, if you played a ton of
every
side quests,
side quest.
the side quests were actually complaining. The people who played all the stuff were actually complaining about being over leveled too often. So it's kind of Ubisoft screw themselves. If you're just in the main line, it's too hard. If you do everything, it became too easy, which has kind of been an issue with the series overall since 3.
Well, so here's the thing about that. Okay, so first off, they're called side missions for a reason. They are for something to do on the side. They are not part of the main mission line, right? So if there's side missions, why would you have to do side missions in order to proceed through the story? Because you need the XP from it.
I would argue that a lot of the times people still naturally go to the side quests anyway. Like, maybe it's just me, but side quest more just means it's not going to move the main plot forward. And if we're going to talk about games that rely too much on side quests, I'm going to have to start breaking out an essay on Witcher frickin' 3, where everything is a side quest. And what is a main plot? Because by comparison, Odyssey is fairly more directed.
Yeah, but people aren't being banned for having the custom levels to help move you along for it. That's the major issue here, right? Is that,
to be fair, you don't have custom levels in Witcher 3.
So I have to ask for the clarification. Are the people who made those levels banned, or are the people who are playing those levels banned?
the makers.
Okay, that's less alarming for me, though. If it was everybody who was playing it, then I would be pissed.
As I understand, I had to go back through and read the article again. The article's reporting on it as the people that made them, but it doesn't change the fact that if, regardless, if it's for a single player experience, right? Real estate aside, right? If you're gonna say, look, we're deleting this level because it's all this is a grind out, or it's an easy grind out, and we have people that are actually making dialogue, like full dialogue, branching story.
Level, though, isn't going to do the same amount of effort to stop it. You got to think about this from a feasibility standpoint. Deleting just one level, the person can make another one. There's nothing right there that disincentivizes it. So I don't think that banning. Understand? I don't think that banning was the right call. I do think that Ubisoft relies too much on grinding, but I also think that in this particular case, it's a case of them trying to figure out the quickest solution that ensures the most ideal outcome for the most amount of players for what they're aiming for. If that is that very grind intensive, that's the thing we could debate about for ages, but that doesn't change the fact that people are very determined to break the rules, and also it warrants mentioning that Assassin's Creed Origin and Odyssey have cheats that allow you to just skip past certain things. If you actually want to, you can just say, you know what, screw levels. I don't want to have to worry about leveling or something like that. You can just turn it off. It disables achievements, but if you're really that concerned about achievements, you're probably doing everything anyway.
But that's not everyone. For people that just want to play the main core story, right? And they just want to play through the story. And they're finding that is incredibly difficult because the way that it was designed is to get these XP boosters. So they're trying to do something that's the most efficient way to go about getting the extra XP so they can continue the story. Why is there a punishment coming down?
Instead of engaging with people who actually wrote whole full-length stories that actually flesh out your character, give you unique gear, and provide other things. All that side content, it's not the same sort of thing as, like, say, in Grand Theft Auto 3, a side mission is you drove a hooker somewhere. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a side mission is a writing team spent like a week or two putting together this entire scenario, did mocap, did animation, did balancing, did all of these things for this content.
Yes.
I can understand prioritizing that because there's some games where they just had to give up on the fact that you wouldn't be able to experience it, like anything like Deus Ex.
But it's
So
go ahead. Go ahead.
This is the part that kills me on that, and that is, I understand as a story writer, you may want to make sure that that material gets out because it's good, fulfilling content, but it's not their place to decide. It's the person who's playing the game. It's like somebody who reads a book and decides, hey, I'm actually going to start in the third book in the series. Is that what J.K. Rowling wanted? Absolutely not. But you know what? I saw the first two movies, so I'm going to go for the third book. And that's the way it pans out. You know, like I can understand being like, artistically, I think that this is a bad decision for players to choose, but I don't think it's like, hey, we're going to force them to only do things the way that we want.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing on that. When I'm trying to just lay out this might be actually what the thought process is. And also, yeah, personally, I'm going to want to be able to play things I want to play. Although, it should also be noted that this has kind of been an issue with Ubisoft games for a while now. The whole forcing you to do certain things a certain way. You kind of have to do that. It's in a very weird sort of state. Like, even like just as recent as Assassin's Creed Syndicate, they had an issue with certain campaign missions and stuff like that where it would be like, you are going to play it this way and this way only, although we actually gave you these gadgets that let you play this way. Damn it, why didn't you just turn the... I mean, think back to the time I told you guys about the Karl Marx speech where I ended up essentially murdering everyone even though I was supposed to be his bodyguard. This has been a problem with their design philosophy for a while. So I'm not saying that it's justified. I'm saying that I can see that being the motivation for trying to push people that way. And the publisher going, great, you do that, and we'll offer microtransactions in case they don't want to do that. It's a tangled mess.
Then why is... Like, I understand an effort going into side stories, but if that amount of effort went into it, speaking from a financial standpoint, that much effort that went into a part of that content creation, why is that not part of the main part of the story then?
Because players will complain about it. Because players will insist about it. For crying out loud, that's part of the reason people praise The Witcher 3 to hell and back, is that getting a woman back her frying pan had the production values of a main quest in Knights of the Old Republic. It's just a thing that people keep insisting that they want, even though it's honestly, I agree, it's really needless in a number of cases. There's several scenarios where, realistically, not that much time and effort should have gone into it. But when you don't do that, when you don't put the time into the animation, stuff like that, you get complaints about Mass Effect Andromeda's side quests just being a flat static camera from the main game instead of being an up-close look at the person's face. You hear about all these sorts of nitpicks, and as a result, it's part of what's actually causing AAA gaming on a whole and a major issue, is that they keep having to bloat everything, because if everything isn't polished to a mirror machine, no matter how tiny a thumbtack it is in the experience, someone will complain about it and potentially make a meme out of it and make it so your game doesn't sell that well. It's just so insane.
I mean, certainly, I think that's a challenge with AAA titles, and this might be a really good transition into our next topic.
Maybe. I just before we go on it though, I just I don't know. I feel like that the banning of it's not great. Like
it's not.
And the thing is if there's a struggle to get from point A to point B in your main storyline plot, there's a bigger issue there. There's a bigger issue there if you're struggling to get there. Like, if it's one thing to be difficult to get from A to B, that is fine. But if you got to struggle because of the way it was designed, because it was intended to have something else to play out in order, and it's not to be like, well, you side quested. That then it's not a side quest. If it's what actually further progresses your character through a story, is it a side quest or is it just part of the quest? Make it a branch off of something that is already occurring in the main plot.
I have a question. I have one question.
Okay.
This all said, are you okay with grinding, just pure grinding in a JRPG? Because realistically, what we're looking at here is the same sort of context as having to grind a bunch of levels in a JRPG. It just happens to have a story attached to it. Because I can completely agree with being frustrated by that. It's one of the main reasons that I always suck at getting through a JRPG, because I don't want to have to put hours and hours into playing just a bunch of battles over and over again to get to the next point. I completely agree with you on that, and it is completely infuriating, but also I kind of would prefer it if it at least had a narrative and a point rather than just, oh, I'm fighting more goblins again. Okay.
I think part of that comes from just the technological state of the game, right? Like a lot of those JRPGs, we're talking like PS1 era or prior to it.
No, I'm referring to ones that are modern. There are modern ones that will still expect me to do that much grinding.
Oh, yeah. And there were games even before the PS1 that knew how to do it right in the J realm. Like Chrono Trigger is a fantastic example of that, where there wasn't any grinding. You could just push straight through.
Sure.
I don't think, for me, like the scenario that you described earlier, where it's, hey, you see the sudden progression of difficulty in your main story, where it's saying, hey, you really can't realistically do the next main story piece unless you do something else. As a matter of kind of choosing your own adventure, you have a whole bunch of different things that you can possibly do. And I think just grinding things out the way that these players have made it happen is a reasonable way of doing it. But if you want to choose your own adventure, oh, there are 47 subplots that I haven't paid any attention to. Yeah, I'm going to give them a shot. I don't think that that's unreasonable. I think that's part of what makes an open world experience, and that's Assassin's Creed in a nutshell. But it can get frustrating that you get forced in certain situations, or at least nudged to be like, hey, I know you really like this main plot, but you've got to do something else. You could get yourself into the other situation where your main plot can be completed way too quickly. I mean, I can think of a certain game that has been known for that, where you can go in and do millions of things in the world, but the main plot's like all of 5-6 hours.
Sure. Well, yeah, those definitely exist. I completely agree with you. I think a lot of the problems with the JRPG side of those games in that part of the discussion, right, is the fact that it's exactly what you described. It was a short narrative, and in order to lengthen it, to artificially lengthen it, they had to do the grind session part of it. That was a fault of the game, and plenty of people fault those games for it. It doesn't hinder their ability to enjoy it. The thing that changed, and the reason why it's a little bit easier to put AC Odyssey on blast for this, is the fact that there are microtransactions attached to the XP boost in the game. Would this, like, honestly, if the XP boost microtransaction existed, do you think we even have this discussion right now? I am willing to put dollars to donuts that we wouldn't have even had this discussion. The reason this discussion came up is because of the XP grind, because people are trying to get XP because they didn't want to buy the damn boosts.
Okay, but just realistically speaking, if everything besides the microtransaction bit still happened, it still would be a problem. If the fact of the matter is, the arenas would still be an issue. It would still... I don't think that would be going on as smoothly as you think. It might. I'm wondering whether or not bans would have happened, but I also just I still see there being a problem with it, and it's honestly a response to past games. Because to pull one last example, Assassin's Creed Syndicate had the reverse problem. It had XP boosts, but legitimately, if you knew how to stealth in that game, I remember playing it for the first time. I hadn't played an Assassin's Creed game in years. I cleared every single gang hideout before I was even halfway to max level. And it actually kind of hurt the experience because suddenly it was like, yeah, there's these side missions and things that I could do, but I've already done so much that there's not really a point. So I end up having to make myself go back and go through the content. So that's part of why I'm just sort of like, yeah, there's no convenient answer to this. Other than that, yes, an alternative to bans would have been better. I don't disagree with that. I hate whenever bans have to happen, but it doesn't surprise me that Ubisoft went with that because they've gotten a little more ban happy ever since Rainbow Six Siege on. Ever since they started doing it they've kind of just been a lot more inclined to do it, and I wish they wouldn't do that with everything.
It's not the answer for everything. There's certain things that occur that it's like, okay, yes, a ban is completely warranted in what you're trying to accomplish and cease from happening, but in the fact that people are trying to get around from having to pay extra money for your $100 game, because let's not forget, Odessey had so many fucking tiers at release as far as what you could buy. Right, you had $100 version of that game. They didn't want to throw extra money at your game, and they were trying to get a workaround. I'm again, if that transaction didn't exist, would it be an issue? Overall, sure, it would be an issue. Would we be having this particular discussion right now? Not likely.
The likelihood of them banning it is the question, and we'll never quite know. But because the money is involved,
bingo. Exactly. I mean, as far as the would the bans occur or not without the transaction portion of it, would a pirate ever buy the game that they pirated? We don't know. We just do not know. There's no way to actually truly answer that question. That being said, you wanted to move on to a growing number of things that we've seen in the AA publisher arena.
So just to make the quick clarification, what does AA really mean in this scenario?
Because I'm glad you asked. So the simple answer is AA is every single sort of experimental weird game that you used to get regularly on your PlayStation 2 and just kind of died in 7th gen. Like, so many developers, so many publishers they died off or they became digital only games in 7th gen because the sheer hike killed off so many teams, but it's now resurging again. And it's when you go into GameStop and you see a brand new game and it's only $40, that's AA. That's something like the World War Z game or Divinity 2, all that sort of stuff like that. Those games, Pillars of Eternity, there's this whole marketplace now for games that aren't quite the budget and scale of Call of Duty or anything like that. Goodness no, but they are more than an indie game. They have a budget, they have a publisher, and because of that wiggle room, they're allowed to do more things, but also they can't do them with the greatest level of polish. So you end up with something like the Technomancer, which was a fairly neat action RPG that was reasonably like 40 hours long, but it also had some really cringeworthy animations, and the voice acting wasn't exactly great because they mostly had to outsource it from across Europe. And that's the thing. We're seeing this regeneration of AA games not coming from the US or from Japan, but it's coming from Europe, where for a while now there's been these companies that have just kind of comfortably sat in the back, bid their time, and have made money off of projects that EA or Ubisoft or Activision would say would not work, that should not be financially feasible. These games that have made maybe 50 or 60s on Metacritic but still managed to turn a profit. There's this sort of patience and trust that we don't see in any other marketplaces. So it's a really fascinating thing, and it's starting to gear up. They're starting to get bigger, and like with actual box releases, it's turning into a very fascinating thing. And I'm going to stop rambling now.
Well, and so with the growth of this, you're talking about games like Metro Exodus, right, or the farming sims, trucking sim games, etc. Honestly, I'm glad to see this, right? It's a new competition point in the gaming industry, and for people. Okay, so one of the biggest things that I think that has been a constant theme on this show, at least, is that we've complained a lot about the AAA industry and what they've done. Well, if we continue to see this rise in AA games and the availability to them, we could just say screw it and just buy AA games and truly enjoy them. There's a great production quality that's still done to these games. It's not like it's a game that could be mistaken for a movie, a live action movie, but it's still a good looking game with pretty decent voiceover quality, motion captures used in some of it, or whatever it is, or there's aspects or there's elements of the game that are unique to that game that make it fun. And we can
absolutely.
go do it. Just go get it.
And it also is warrant saying that part of the reason we're getting this huge surge is that development tools have just become so cheap. Because Unreal 4, because Unity are so accessible now, it's not nearly as challenging to get a license, make the game, put it together, make a studio, and with the advent of more remote work, it's just, I mean,
oh yeah,
just there's so many different angles to this, and it, in a way, AA gaming has kind of taken the lessons from the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
it's flexible like indie, but it's also got the impact and some of the budget of AAA, with the biggest ones being right now, and that's actually what warranted this to bring it up, is there's Big Ben and there's Focus Home. Focus Home has been basically the king of this for a while, so it's interesting to see them actually getting competition. We might be seeing the AA Big Three start to finally form.
which, I mean, if that's something that drove originality in games and whatnot, mechanics, sure, I'm all for it. I'm totally down for that. I think that would be great overall for the industry. I think where we don't see it as much in consoles, I think PC gamers are going to be the biggest beneficiaries. Yes, of this particular part of the marketplace in general, because it's so easy to put it on the PC platform, even if there is a certain store that I think is horrible and should just die in a fire.
Anyway,
I mean, the good news is you can go to another one.
Yeah. Well, and I think we discussed about some of the other ones that are coming up, and being able to be what consumers want in this in store, and the fact that it's so easy to market yourself and publish yourself to that platform now, with especially with all the storefronts, there's a huge benefit to PC gamers, and I would love to see what is going to come from it. I think there's a ton of games that are on the horizon from it that could be a ton of fun.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, talking about the multiple storefronts, that is one of the hugest things. Like, to put things in perspective, when Focus Home published, I'm gonna butcher the name here, but they did a Poirot game, Agatha Christie's The ABC Murders as a game. Not only was it published to Steam and to GOG, it even got published to itch.io. That is just how much they appreciate grassroots sales and actually reaching players where they want to play their games. Because it's the AA publishers who are releasing games DRM free, like Darksiders 3 and that. So that is also a fascinating thing, is that we're seeing a greater willingness to embrace old school philosophy. There's physical releases for some of these games,
Yep.
even for PC, that are DRM free. Just like, seriously, the reason I wanted to bring this up is just like, imagine the possibilities. Imagine what would happen if we actually saw the marketplace finally do really what a lot of PC players especially would want to have seen for, I don't know, almost 2 decades now.
No, I can imagine, and you're right. I mean, we see a little bit of everything as far as like hard copies being sold. I mean, yeah. Look at look at Goat Simulator. We'll just put that one out there, you know. With this particular growth of AA publishers, well, developers, I suppose, is really the better way to put it. What do we expect to see in the next we'll say 2 years. What do you think we'll see from this boom in AA publishers and developers?
I think one of the most beautiful things about it is being able to get a lot of things that we don't know about. A lot of this is the area where new IP comes and builds and grows and suddenly becomes a AAA title after it's done extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had a lot of new IP to talk about for a long time. Nothing earth-shattering. Like Assassin's Creed is Assassin's Creed. We know that we're getting one every other year now.
Yep.
Call of Duty, like all of these names have been around for such an extended period of time. I'm waiting to see that next breakthrough that comes through that says, hey, this is unique, this is interesting. And I think that we have a very strong desire for that in the market right now.
Yeah.
AA gaming, I would also say, is because, Mish, I know you hate exclusivities, but the thing is, this is probably the closest answer to console exclusives that I've seen on the market for actually being able to explore what you want to do. Because, for example, Spiders. They have been a French developer for years now. They're making a colonial-era RPG where you can choose to be an awful human being or actually try to help the local natives of this fictional island. And just, there's so many things about it that you would not see ever from any other sort of traditional publisher. It would not be happening as a thing. And I know some of the publishers have been a little bit more risky, Ubisoft's got their roller derby game coming up and stuff like that, but that doesn't happen often. And I think that some publishers are figuring out that this is starting to work, but they're very hesitant. I know this is going to sound weird here, but I think EA is actually the one that's most figured out what's going on with their EA Original, because they've been doing a sort of similar approach. They pay for the marketing, and they help bankroll a game like A Way Out or Faye, but otherwise they're very hands-off about it, and I'm hoping that that's kind of seeps into other publishers because it's working. It's worked very well for Focus Home, because when you look at the Focus Home library, it's all over the friggin' place. And that's beautiful. That's what publishers used to be. Remember when, Frogmind would, as a developer, they released Dungeon Keeper, they released Syndicate, and they released Magic Carpet, all within the span of a few years. None of those were consistent. None of those were beholden to internet rangers or anything like that. It was just people doing their jobs very well and producing stuff that people loved. Because it's just like what Diz is saying here. It's we could see that sort of 6th gen, 5th gen sort of creativity that we really haven't had. Because the amount of games released by the big three especially it's pitiful. We don't get announcements at E3 anymore. Not really. We get update notifications. We get glorified update notifications at E3. So bring it on. I want it. Sorry, I'm very enthusiastic about this.
Yeah, I think that we'll see a lot more originality coming out of it. I agree. I completely agree with this. I think one of the big things that's going to help is that they're not beholden to the shareholders like AAA publishers are. So these AA publishers are more willing to take risks. And sometimes when publishers and developers are allowed to make risks, we see some really cool things come out of it. And we really haven't seen anything like that since the PS2 era, I would argue.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, since we're talking about games that, have a chance of a risk or whatnot, sometimes there were really popular games that came out of it, or there were games that came out of it that were liked to a degree. But sometimes, even though they were popular, they may not have grabbed you. So what is a game that you just wished you could like, that you wished that you liked, and it wasn't your game. It wasn't for you. And I'll kick this off. And this is a very popular franchise, but it's one that just could not grab me. And I just could not. Is Mass Effect. I don't like Mass Effect. I don't like the way the battle mechanics work. I can't. I want to. So many people love it. So many people love the story. I just can't.
I mean, I find myself, and I'm not gonna excuse myself out on this discussion. I find myself in the same boat with Matt, but it's more all of the technical issues that I've had to deal with. I have actually enjoyed the storyline, and I think the combat system, even like playing the original Mass Effect, like it's old school.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of like a couple of the like adventures that I played back in like late MS DOS. The way that it kind of plays out. But that being said, like definitely hits a spark for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay if it doesn't for you, but it's sad.
Okay. So we're saying, so both of us so far are saying Mass Effect. Is there any other Dizza that you just wish you would, like, you wish it grabbed you and it just didn't, or is it
I really wanted Minecraft to do that for me.
Minecraft? Okay.
So I remember being introduced to Minecraft as this little indie game that one of my friends who lived out in a nearby city was just addicted to and playing all the time and absolutely loved.
Mm-hmm.
And this was early beta where like so many different things were happening and people were talking with developers and nobody knew who Notch was at that point. And it was great. And I got the game because one, it was super cheap, and two, the concept of like being able to build your own stuff sounded really, really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I played. I went and I explored, and it was probably like 4 or 5 hours of play. Did some minor things, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm out. And I stopped playing for like a year and a half and pulled it up whenever I had a friend who was interested in playing. And I'm like, sure, I'll give this a go again. But every single time, I just could not get past that block.
Sure.
Literally.
Okay. No, that's an interesting one. I could totally see that. That's a very popular game, especially. I seem to recall some of your early sessions with that. So yeah, that's fair. That's a good one. Elijah, what about yourself? What's a game that you really wish you could bring yourself to enjoy but just can't?
Oh, I'm gonna get hate mail for this one. Like possibly worse than when I said the Uncharted 2 might have.
Well, I mean, I said Mass Effect, so I mean, fire away.
Oh, hun, this is considered a classic.
Okay.
In a genre that I say that I love deeply, and I do.
Yep, just can't play Mario 64. Wow, I can't believe you. I cannot believe you.
Right?
Silent Hill 2 is boring.
Ooh.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. It has the exact same problem as Half-Life 2. At the time, it was groundbreaking. It did do a lot of things that no one else ever saw. It was remarkable. And time has caught up with it faster than the Roadrunner. My good, like even just going from Silent Hill 2 to Silent Hill 3, you see a substantive difference. The level design gets better. The combat gets better. It just, even the writing, honestly, for several scenes gets better. Silent Hill 2 just, at this point, it's not uncanny, it's goofy. It's not terrifying, it's annoying. And the reasons that it tries to be scary are just, for someone like me who's already hard to scare with horror games, it's really bad at it. Like the first boss fight with Pyramid Head is just literally you going do-si-do around a room, avoiding him and shooting him with your pistol. That's all you do. That's it. Oh, the terror, oh, the horror. Plus, yeah, technical issues. A friend loaned me his PC copy. Oh my gosh, that port is an abomination. Even with enhancements, it barely runs. What was it programmed on an actual tumbleweed? It is just, there's so much about it that just, there's so many other iterations that have done better on everything. The twist is still really good and all that, but really, just everything has been done better by other entries in the series or other games. It does all of them first, and I will give it credit for that. But it's just been done to death in so many other ways by so many other games that it's sort of like when a meme loses relevance. You know, it's like it's become so reference. It's become such a thing that you heard so often that it's sort of like Silent Hill 2 is less a thing and it's more like a word. Oh yeah, Silent Hill 2.
Okay. Silent Hill 2. Interesting choice. It's a very interesting choice. Ah, gosh. I'm sitting here trying to think like other games that really stuck out to me. Like, yes, that was, but I don't know. Like the Fallout was kind of like that for me too. Or oh, that's the other one. Skyrim.
Okay, you two then.
Yeah, I can't stand Skyrim. I just can't. I do not like it.
It's everywhere. It will keep on growing. It will be put onto more finally play it through. I'm pretty sure that's the reason. That is singularly the reason.
Why? Because I'm not playing it.
Is on some... Yep.
I see. No, seriously though, the fact that I get that people love the open world experience of Skyrim. I totally understand that. But the fact there is literally no direction. There is no direction.
Look, the direction is away from Dragon Macho Man Randy Savage.
No, I mean, there's two things that I found incredibly amusing about Skyrim. Two things. Macho Man Randy Savage mod and Hippo 15 Chickens. And out of context, that's really interesting. Okay. Out of context, it's really interesting. But those are the two things from Skyrim that I truly cared about. Beyond that, whatever.
It doesn't do much to make you care. Like,
no.
And whenever you do, it doesn't actually have that much depth. I remember doing the Dark Brotherhood storyline because I eventually just went, okay, screw it, I don't care. I'm just going to go crazy Joker and just be causing mayhem. And it was like, I'm actually getting invested in this dark or, gothic family. It's got this sort of, morbid dark fantasy thing going on. I could go down, oh, look, almost all of the spoilers spoiled. And wow, okay, well, I guess no more of that.
The only other thing about the game that you could probably enjoy is the fact that there are a ton of glitches because, of course, it's a Bethesda game.
I can name one more.
Okay, fire away. What else you got?
And it's very appropriate. You want to talk about grinding, hon? My gosh. Borderlands.
Okay.
So much grinding.
Yep.
So
Yep. No, right there with you.
And it's not even the reason why I can't play anymore.
It's because of the desert?
No, but that's fair. That is a fair recognition of who I am.
It might have a little bit to do with raging pitchforks.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can forgive a lot of it, but not for him.
Yep. No, I think that's a fantastic choice too. So I think did we all get two titles out of that?
I do want to clarify real quick here. There's one fascinating thing with Borderlands. It's not actually that it's poorly designed. It's that they buried the good design behind. And you want to talk about explicit grind wall, because I did an experiment. A development friend of mine was actually very curious to see me do this. I got a save game editor, and I just leveled up my character. I put Gage up to her max level. I gave her all the skill points, and I built a character build that actually would make something interesting. And do you know what happened? It became fun. Suddenly, the grinding wasn't about everything. It was just about getting new items. It was the same sort of deal you have with Destiny, and it actually clarified to me why I'm able to still play Destiny every now and then, but can't stand Borderlands. It withholds the fun. All the really cool stuff that you can do with your character builds and everything requires 40 hours. Nobody has time for that.
Sure. So,
sorry, continue.
No, I think that's a fantastic point. I think we covered quite a few games that are, for the most part, considered popular games that we just I'm unable to play it. Doesn't mean I'm completely unwilling to shut out mine again. Maybe I'll try it again, but chances are history will repeat itself, and I suspect that's true in your game's choices as well.
I mean, I have Dragon Quest builders. I don't need Minecraft anymore. Life is great.
There you go. But I suppose one last topic and just a little fun little thing to go into. If we're talking about these games that we tried and just couldn't bring ourselves to do, we have this hobby as a whole that is gaming. But you know, sometimes it's only one hobby. What is something that's an adjacent type hobby that you have that you do besides gaming? Just curious. I'm guessing from the freaking Cebrius that Elijah over here has got Lego.
Cerberus.
Did I just hear Sea Breeze?
Sea Breeze? Yeah.
Yes, Sea Breeze. Okay, you do not get to talk about the PS Vita anymore, young lady.
No, the Vita. No,
Vita.
No.
Vita. With my Cebrius. Actually, my answer is adjacent to Legos, but while yes, obviously, like Legos a lot. There's a lot of them right here beside me. I tend to put them up in different ways whenever we stream. But no, I'd say my adjacent hobby to gaming is level design. Level designing, just for the hell of it, is a lot of fun. Like, there's things like Trench Broom now that make it super easy. And back when I was a teenager, sometimes I had more fun listening to audiobooks and making levels in Battlefront 2 than I did playing Battlefront 2. So it's really cleans your mind out a bit. You're suddenly thinking analytically but creatively at the same time, and it's like telling a story. You can set things up in a way that's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's this elaborate battle, and this is what happened, and that thing crashed there, and yeah, just fun. But also Legos.
Okay. What about yourself, Dizza? What's an adjacent?
So I don't know if I'd quite call it a hobby, but I think as an activity that I really enjoy outside of gaming, escape rooms.
Oh, sure.
And I think escape rooms hit me very much in the same way that a good video game will, especially because I do enjoy my puzzle games. It's figuring out what the mechanic is behind the actions that I need to take to get success, being able to take those. And then you get that extra level of you're usually with a larger group. So how you organize roles, cooperate, and make sure that all of the tasks get completed. Definitely appeals to like the way that I would optimize stuff when I was doing dailies of World of Warcraft or other pieces. I think it's very, very much in the line of video games, and I think it hits that same mental state that I like being in when I play games. So absolutely, the next time there's a group that wants to hang out and do an escape room in the area, by all means, let's make it happen.
Okay, nice. See, yours is still kind of a game-ish, so I feel safe in doing what I'm about to do, which is I want to say D&D. I just don't get into enough sessions. I really want to say that. Like, that's still like tabletop gaming, which is, I mean, it's different from video gaming, but I still do enjoy tabletop gaming.
I'm surprised you don't say role playing at that point.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to get into is say role play. But the part of the reason where I'm like, I'm careful about using that is because the biggest role play that I've been sucked into and I've done is a video game because it's the Grand Theft Auto role play.
See, I as a type role player, I would knock you for that. You are doing things beyond the game itself. You are interacting with other people and you're using it in ways developers never even planned for. Realistically speaking, at that point, you are making your own game, your own experience, which is actually why this topic came to mind. It's just like, really, it is about finding something else that, yes, it somehow interacts or aligns with something you like about a game or do in a game, but
I mean, with that in mind, then I would say the role plays with both with D&D and with the GTA RP. With the D&D roleplay, my sorceress over the last 6 years has evolved a ton, to the point where she's now at a point where you can tell kind of the mood whether she's ready, if she's just calm and collected, or if she's ready to destroy something based on the glow coming from her staff, which is great. As far as the GTA RP, yeah, I suppose if you're going to go beyond the mechanics of the game and the core game of Grand Theft Auto and look at the roleplay itself, then yes, there's a ton there. There's a ton of interaction. So many new people that I've met, and the stories that we try to tell, or the stories that we end up telling and we get incredibly frustrated for. I wish Baltic was here so I could be like, you! But yeah, I would say that's probably been my side hobby of something that's adjacent to gaming that I've truly enjoyed. Do we have anything else to add to that, or is that what we got? Because if that's all we got, I think that because we kind of concluded earlier before the show went live that this would be a shorter show since it's just the three of us, and it was a quiet couple weeks in the wake of gaming news, that this would be a shorter episode. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and go around table and talk about what we got coming up on our channels, where to find us, who we are, etc., etc. And if you're watching this live on Twitch, we'll find someone to raid afterwards. With that in mind, Elijah, we're going to kick it over to you. Where can we find you? What do you got coming up on your channel in the near future?
All right. You can find me pretty much everywhere as the Unabridged Gamer, and I'm happy to say that we just recently wrapped up our Spider-Man reviews for this month. Had to do a bunch of them. I was very surprised to find out that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is actually probably one of the best ones they made.
Okay.
It's just been really pleasant. Besides that, just gonna be doing more licensed tie-in stuff. As said before, in October we're gonna be doing a special stream and all sorts of crazy October content, so that'll be fun. And streams will be beginning again at some point in the future. It's just a matter of things have been really chaotic, so as soon as I'm actually able to just regularly play games again, we'll be seeing a lot more of that. We'll be playing around with a lot more of that because, goodness me, there are a lot of tie-in games. There are more than I realized when I started Clash of the Tie-ins. So that is a thing. You can follow me on Twitter, where you can find out about the written stuff that I've done. And yeah, you can find me here on this lady's channel. And I sometimes drive her crazy by offering devil's advocate opinions.
So when you got everything with your Spider-Man games, you said that you wrapped them up. Did you use web wrap?
What a tangled web these puns have weaved.
Oh, ouch.
I will say that after everything, it definitely prepared me for working with WordPress. I am definitely a webmaster now.
Wow.
I'd have half a mind to just mute him and just go straight to you. Dizza, what do you got coming up on your channel? Where can we find you, etc.?
Hello, awesome peoples of the internet. I am Dizza. You can find me on the internet at DizzaG pretty much everywhere. Twitter, this awesome this place that we hang out with all the time called Twitch. I'm on Discord somewhere too. Everybody keeps on saying that. I am playing a lot of Dragon Quest Builders 2 offline. We are playing it online as well, and I can't wait to go and do some of the amazing things that I've been seeing in the background. Oh my gosh, we are going to have so much fun. So that's going on. I generally stream Tuesdays and Thursdays. If I stream an off day, I'll probably play something different, just to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the awesome storylines. So definitely check things out there. And yeah, we'll have a good time and probably make a whole bunch of buildings and become really close to our neighbors. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, cool. As for myself, if you're watching this live on Twitch, you're already here. You know where to find me. However, if you're not, or would like a reminder, you can find me, Miss Michelle Jean, 1L Michelle, on Twitter. I guess technically you can find me on YouTube that way, or here on Twitch. On Tuesday, we got more Grand Theft Auto roleplay coming up. You're probably going to see Jean incredibly flustered on Tuesday at various points. So if you want to see Her Fluster, check that out. Wednesday is in the air. It could be a variety of Friday will be more Elite Dangerous. We will be leaving the Obsidian Orbiter to start heading towards the next set of nebulas and exploration. We have a lot more stars and planets and moons to throw our names on.
Wait, so you're leaving Obsidian. Does that mean you're heading to Bethesda or BioWare?
No. Just a quick tangent. In fact, the whole Obsidian Orbiter is actually based on the YouTube content creator Obsidian Ant, which if you're in the Elite Dangerous community, you definitely know who Obsidian Ant is. The guy's got a voice that could read the phone book and you'd be interested and easily fall asleep to because it's that relaxing of a voice. There you go. That's where the Obsidian Orbiter comes from. But yeah, we're blessed out from that. Also, if you're a sub and you're in the Discord, join the conversation about other games that you'd like to see streamed on the channel. We're looking at Diablo 3 currently and Warframe as possibilities. And I'm open to those options, even if I did list them earlier as things I'm trying to struggle through. But I'll do it. I'll do it for you. For tonight, though, for the Unabridged Gamer and for Dizzy, my name is Miss Michelle G, and this has been the Newbcast podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and have a fantastic night.
You know the one thing we didn't hear tonight?